Welcome to another episode of LERU Talks. My name is Katrien Maes. I'm the Special Initiatives Ambassador for the League of European Research Universities and the moderator of this program. Today, we delve into the European degree. This is a proposal put forward by the European Commission for a new type of degree to be awarded to students who complete a transnational bachelor's, master's, or even doctoral program. About LERU Talks. So in LERU Talks, we aim to bring the academic world and the policy world closer together. And we have an academic expert from a LERU university and an expert from the policy world engage with each other. So my guests today are truly outstanding experts on the topic of the European degree. And I'm very pleased to introduce to you Vanessa Debiais-Santon, is a member of Cabinet for European Commission Executive Vice President Roxana Mînzatu. And previously, she served as Head of Unit for the European Higher Education Policies at the Directorate General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture, leading the development of the European education area's higher education dimension. So, we could not wish for a more expert than Vanessa to join us today. And on the academic side, the same. Peter Lievens is a Vice-Rector International Policy, Interculturality and Alumni Policy at the KU Leuven in Belgium. He's a professor of experimental physics in the Department of Physics and Astronomy. Peter is on the board of directors of UNA Europa, one of the European Universities Alliances, and he's a steering group member of our LERU Policy Group International. He's also the main author of a LERU advice paper on universities, on the European Universities Alliances, which appeared last year. Welcome to you both. I am thrilled to have you with us. So after the conversation with our guests, there will be time for questions from the audience. So also a warm welcome to everybody online. Please submit your questions via the Zoom chat function during the discussion. We'll try and do our best to address as many of the questions as possible. So, let's start. In the event title, we mention the desirability, the feasibility, and the viability of the European degree. Let's delve into each of those, and we'll start with desirability. Vanessa, can I ask you, why does Europe need a European degree?
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you very much for this opportunity of such a dialogue with Peter. And we know each other quite well. It's always a pleasure. So geopolitics. Where do we want Europe to play a role in the world? If we want to be competitive, knowing that there is a race for talent, we need Europe to be able to offer top-notch innovative joint degree programs, especially in sectors where Europe lacks sovereignty and autonomy when it comes to artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, defense, etc. Now, what we hear from the universities is that we have the knowledge in Europe, but the knowledge is fragmented between different excellent universities. So the only way to play, to really play our part as European partners on a worldwide scene is to cooperate together and to pull that knowledge together. But what universities tell us is that because of the lack of consistency between the national legislations, it's very complicated to put together a joint degree programs already between 3 partners, but the more partners you have and the more complexities because of this variety and diversity in the different national legislations across Europe. So European degree would offer more opportunities to more students and to more universities if they wish so.
Okay, there we go, Peter. So what do you think? Do you agree? Is the European degree an attractive proposition for universities?
Yes, Katrien, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to talk to Vanessa. And I would say, yes, it is really very, very fundamental and also an attractive proposition for universities. If we know what we are talking about, if it really is what we understand to be a European degree, and I think one of the priorities that we currently are facing is to make clear what we understand when we talk about a European degree in the context of this ongoing discussion between member states and the Commission. And if it is the right thing to work on, I would say, yeah, let's go for this. It would bring really a very attractive value proposition to students if we are dealing with programs that really add value. If we create a space where the workforce in Europe needs certain skills, certain specific degrees. And if this is complementing what we already do very well at university level and at member state level. And very important there is that we make sure that all legal barriers that currently are around to come to joint degrees are removed for this specific instrument, and that broadly the collaboration between the different universities and member states is much more simplified.
Yeah. We'll come back to hurdles such as legal hurdles when we talk about the feasibility. Before I ask you for an example of this value proposition, the added value, because I'm sure, Peter, within Europa, I'm sure you and KU Leuven, you're thinking about where the type of degree or which discipline or which interdisciplinary program would be, or the topics that are needed. You mentioned the labor market. What is an example of where this could work really well? But first of all, I'd like to go back to Vanessa and say if you have any comments on what Peter said.
Always happy to complement what Peter says. No, and I fully agree with Peter that it is important to define it well and clearly for everybody, for the students, for the universities, for the future employers. And that is why we have worked together with more than 150 universities across Europe that have been piloting the concept of what a European degree could be. And as you said, Peter, it's very important that it can address the legal barriers that universities are currently facing. And that is why these pilots, in only 1 year, they've been working like mad. They have listed more than 50 challenges across all the member states that universities are facing. For example, in which language they can teach. There are many, many differences across the countries, many different legislations. In some, you can teach in every language, in some others, only the national language, or maybe for 30% in a foreign language, or in some others. So you see the difficulty already. So the more partners you are, the more different legislations you are, and the more complex it becomes. So of course, we already have joint degrees today between 2-3 universities from different countries, having national legislations that look alike. But look, if you want to develop a top-notch joint European degree in cybersecurity, you may want to partner with a university in a country where the national legislation is not compatible. What do we do? What can universities do? And this is this complementary path that Peter just said that we want to offer. So we do not put into question what exists. So national degrees will continue. Any existing joint degrees that they exist now will continue. We are not putting that into question. We are just building a new highway, and it's free for anybody to take it or not, but a free highway where we build a single level playing field with a single set of rules that make it much easier for universities to develop this joint European degree of their dreams, and for the dreams of the students to best prepare them for the jobs of tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. So, Peter, I mean, you have already some experience in Una Europa with students moving around Europe and so on. Can you say, is this attractive to students? Do you see that they come to KU Leuven because you offer an institutional, a transnational degree? And let me just add non-Europeans into this as well while we're talking about it.
Yeah, of course, there are many very good reasons to come and study with KU Leuven, and so this is only one of the additions that we can offer. But aside of that, I think this idea really came about when we started in the last several years, maybe a decade or so, thinking much more about how we also could bring collaboration much more into the higher education, as we have been doing with research collaborations for decades and even centuries. And then, of course, when you put professors who already decided to join forces in research, for instance, on sustainability or on European studies, when you bring them in a room, they of course will be eager to then come up with a very original, ambitious, unique program related to their fields of studies. And this is what happened in Una Europa when we were looking into the interdisciplinary focus areas to delve into and to collaborate. It came up that it would be fantastic if we could bring scholars from all partner universities in European studies together and build a more interdisciplinary, broad bachelor program in European studies. And this is what we try to do. It was extremely complicated, so I'm so proud of the colleagues who worked on this and realized this program. We are now in the final year of the bachelor program of the first cohort. So 3 successful consecutive years have almost passed now. Sixth semester is ongoing. And we can really see the added value for the students who choose to start studying there. They are very motivated. They are like the future leaders of Europe, I always tend to say. But it was very complicated. We started with 8 partners, and only 4 were able to make sure that all borders were gone, or all barriers were gone. So only 4 of the 8 participating universities can really offer the joint degree. The others are partnered and they contribute, they host students in mobility frameworks, but they don't jointly offer the degree, which is really a pity. They've been working so hard in realizing this degree, and then they are kind of sidelined. Of course, we comfort them and welcome them, but it's not the ideal situation. So we need better circumstances to overcome all these barriers.
Better
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead, Vanessa.
Yeah, I would like to share as well one of my experience as well from CHARMEU, for example, which is another European Universities Alliances, and they have developed a joint master program in sustainability. Which is also another very important topic for Europe and the planet. And I had the pleasure to visit the University of Barcelona, and where I met the students, and they were in a room where they were all from different 20, 30 different nationalities beyond Europe, with students from South America, from Asia, and they were, you know, groups by groups at a table with different screens, and they were cooperating and training together with other students from the other campuses. And they had all stars in their eyes, you know, loving this program. And when we asked them what is the best that you find, every time it's about a mobility that they had on another campus and exchanging with other students from other cultures. And one sentence that they said is that it is so wonderful that they wonder why their friends are not aware of such programs, and why there are not more programs like this. So it is encouraging. I think it shows that we're in the right direction when we hear and when we discuss with the students who already benefit from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's good. Sorry if I just may to just talk to these students. We now have almost 1,000 in the program in the 3 years. So this is really like a large group. They are already now preparing their alumni network and so on. It's really a joy seeing them collaborating across all borders with, of these 1,000, something like 50 different nationalities already. So it's good.
Absolutely. This is the future of Europe. Absolutely.
Well, I have so many questions, and I see lots of questions coming in the Q&A as well. We've sort of gone from the desirability, that is definitely an argument to be made there, to the feasibility. We've started talking about the challenges and the hurdles. come back to that in a minute, like the legal and financial implications. But there's one thing that we haven't talked about, that is the label next to the degree. So Vanessa, could you tell us a little bit about what the difference is? And I was thinking, as we are talking about all these difficulties, the challenges for some, not for others, is the idea of a label, is that going to be easier? Should we see that as the sort of more feasible, more doable option?
So when we have been discussing it for almost 2 years now with the member states, because as you know, the European Commission and the European institutions do not have any competence in education. Member states have the competence. So when we have been discussing it with the member states, they understood the political objective, the importance as well to build this European identity. It's also a very important, vector for it. They understand also the added value for competitiveness, but their worries for a number of them was that they feel the administration is not ready yet, and that they felt that it's important to have a step-by-step approach, and understanding that not everybody would be able to move at the same pace as well. So that is why in the blueprint for European degree that we presented last year, we proposed a step-by-step approach. And the first step would be a label. And then, of course, having in mind that the final objective is European degree. So if you want, the label is an intermediary step, because we know that not only there are challenges in putting together joint programs because of these differences in national legislation, but there is also another additional complexity when it comes to the joint degree, because some member states will have legislation, the thickness of the paper or the diploma, or what can you put on the diploma, or in which language you can put it. You see, so the label, if you want, is an intermediate step from that point of view. Of course, it will depend on we have the commission together with, after having piloted, if you want, a concept, has put a proposal on the table to the council. Of course, now it will depend on the decision, the agreement within the council, because these criteria will make what the label is and what the joint European degree is. But the idea is this, that everybody would have an entry point, if you want. So that was the objective.
Yeah, I think from the university's perspective, it is really important that whenever first step is taken, whether it's called a label or a real European degree, that from the onset it is clear that we need to have a jointness of both the program and the degree. So even if we want to issue a label, if it is a label that adheres to whatever dual degree or creative solution that we already can figure out now, I don't think this is going to create added value at all. So we really have to go for a step towards jointness of both programs and degrees, and then eventually it can develop into a bit more if we want to go for a European degree. For sure, it is important that we include a European student experience, and that we also talk about European values and what we stand for. So there is a bit more in the European degree, I think, than just in the label, but this jointness should be there from the onset. Otherwise, it's not going to be possible.
And it's very important what you said, Peter, and I fully agree with you that the objective is not business as usual. The objective is not to say, oh, I'm doing this, will I be able to get the European degree label? Well, the point is that, look, if you already do it, you don't need a European degree label or a joint European degree. The objective is to develop joint degree programs that are not possible today. That is the objective, is to go beyond what universities can already do now, to make it easier, to bring these conversions between the national legislation, to allow universities to come up with top-notch joint European degree with innovation, cooperation with companies, some modules of interdisciplinarity, some modules of change-based approach, making best use of all the new technologies, including AI, etc. So this is what we are looking at. For more opportunities for the students, for them to be better prepared for the world of tomorrow.
Can we mentioned legal hurdles before. On the one hand, the European Union does not have the educational competence to do a number of things. The member states do. We know that there is some resistance at the member state level. So what needs to happen in those areas in terms of legal intervention to make these, whether it's a label or a degree, possible? Vanessa, I think I'd like to start with you.
So there are two aspects. In some member states, they already have the legislations allowing for it, and Peter mentioned it in a moment. But the issue is that, okay, in their countries, like in Leuven or in Nordic countries, some Nordic countries say, look, we're not interested because our universities can already do it. Okay, they can, but their partners cannot. So what can they do? You know, they need it basically because they need their partners to have their national legislation allowing for them to cooperate with the Nordic countries, for example. So that is important. Now, the blueprint for European degree, and we are only at the start of this journey. We are only talking about the blueprint. We are not at the European degree yet. This will come in a couple of years, we hope. But now we have only 2 more meetings to come in the European Council. So it's very, very important that universities make their voice heard, especially in the Nordic countries, especially in Germany, especially in Hungary. If universities want to be able to deliver, to first develop joint degree programs of their dreams, but then to be able to deliver a label or a degree, they need to speak to their minister. That is absolutely fundamental. There will be a meeting this week and a meeting the week of the 11th of April, and then it's done. So it's now or never.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Big message.
Yeah, then let it be now. I think we really should move on now. It doesn't need to be very complicated. I think if the different member states understand that this will be about a not very large number of programs, and really only when there is added value by collaborating, that universities will be interested to deliver these joint programs. I'm convinced they will see the light somehow. It really is a good time to move forward and to take the steps. What certainly is not the idea is that member states should be frightened or should think about loss of identity or loss of the power to organize their own higher education, because this is going to be the essential part of every joint degree. It will be an opportunity for member states to really share their expertise, their good teaching and research qualities with students who also are then taking part of their courses elsewhere. It just is way too complicated now to take joint initiatives, and this is why we are missing many, many opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And also a very important point, you know, other continents, America, Asia, they invest massively. Well, maybe in some continents not anymore, but in some others they invest massively in higher education. In Europe, we don't have that level of budget, unfortunately. So the only way to be able to compete and to be attractive on a worldwide scene is to really pull that knowledge together. We need to make our diversity a strength. Okay, if you take each university individually, they are quite small, even the biggest one, as compared to other institutions in other parts of the world. But imagine 9 different universities together. They can compete with the best universities in other parts of the world. And this is what is at stake.
Mm-hmm. That's a very encouraging message, I think, you know, and supportive message for universities. When you say investment, okay, money comes into it as well. Peter, are financial hurdles, financial challenges for you for your university or for UNA Europa to engage in this?
Yeah, I think there is, and of course, the dynamics of the European Universities Initiative initially brought a little bit of funding, not enough, but some funding. but also enthusiasm. But there has been lots of investment of the participating universities in both the European Studies Bachelor, but now also more recently in the accredited Bachelor in Sustainability, which is starting as of next year. And we are recruiting students now because people really need to pull together an interesting program that is competitive with all other programs that are existing. It is therefore important to have some support. So a dedicated funding stream as anticipated by the European Commission is certainly very, very important. Also to make sure that the programs will stay inclusive and not elitist, and that whoever has the talent will have an opportunity to join. So in that sense, being able to grant a number of scholarships to students would be very important. But of course, it's not the most expensive thing we do. If we see added value, there is also some co-investment possible of universities, but some support, certainly in the starting up phase, I think would be very welcome.
Yeah, and KU Leuven, and typically, if I may say so, LERU universities are fairly well-resourced universities, fairly well in the big scheme of things. But you still have to make sure that within the university you address your diversity, whatever they are, your strategies or requirements. And for some universities, in some parts of Europe, this will not be as easy as for others. Not that it's easy for KU Leuven or whatever. That's not what I'm saying. But anyway, I'm watching time and we haven't talked yet. I also see lots of questions coming in. A lot of them, for instance, on the criteria. Why this criteria? Why that criteria? So we'll come back to that in going through some of the questions. But I think, one of the questions that we were talking about earlier was, what are the critical success factors for a European degree? We've we've enumerated some of them. I don't know, Vanessa, if there's something that you want to add to that. Is there something that we haven't talked about in terms of critical success factors necessary to make it viable, to make it go? One of the things that we've talked about, of course, is the council. We have that type of necessity, but there may be other ones as well.
So the success factor for me is to simplify the current ecosystem that we have with all the different and incoherent nationalization in this transnational context. We are not putting it into question national context. I'm only talking about a transnational context here. And for me, the success factor will be the level of ambition. It's very important that member states and the ministries understand that business as usual. If they do business as usual because they know this little joint program that they wanted to have the European degree label, business as usual will not bring us forward, will not help us to make it better as compared to what it is. So for me, that is a very important success factor, to have a level of ambition in these European criteria. And the second success factor, of course, will be the support and the incentives for the universities and the European, the funding support from European instruments, but also funding support at national and institutional level. And the third success factor, of course, the universities and the students. But here I am not worried because we have seen so much enthusiasm among universities and students that now we need to bring that enthusiasm at the national and European level and across different member states.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think that these two last aspects certainly are very important. We need to make sure that there is support from the member states and from the European Commission to really make this happen, and to make sure that the added value of these joint degree programs with a European label or eventually European degree will be marketed well, will be made attractive enough. And that, of course, may have to do with the support, also financial support. But crucial for me is the choices that we are going to make. It needs to be programs that are of interest to students, to many students, so that it's going to be I would say, a competition to join those, as we have seen in the programs that we are running now. It really needs to be something special, something attractive, something that is not there already. And one way to make sure that this is happening is to also make sure that there is enough take-up by employers, very diverse employers, policymakers in some cases, the job market elsewhere. So in that sense, it also I think it's going to be a very important instrument in the recent documents related to the Union of Skills, and competitiveness is there. So all the buzzwords that the new European Commission is using, I think, are in need and desperate need of strong support for these type of higher educational efforts as well.
All right. It's 2:00. We need to kind of wrap up our conversation, and then we'll go to the audience questions. So, but as a last set of questions, the future, the next steps, what is going to happen? So I can ask you both. Vanessa, you've already talked about the crucial council meetings at the moment. What is going to happen in the next year? How do you see it?
So what we have proposed is to set up a European degree policy lab, where we would bring together the different experts from universities, ministries, but also national quality assurance agencies, centers of recognition, to, if you want, once we have a proposal on the European degree agreed in the council, then we need to make it operational. And we need to make sure that, for example, these criteria can be easily assessed and in a coherent way. We need to discuss how to ensure the quality assurance, making sure that it can be recognized automatically across the member states. So that is why it is important to have all these experts around the table to develop guidelines on how to operationalize it and then to test it. And that is why we would propose to set up we have proposed as well to set up a European degree forum every year to take stock of where we are and to engage the entire higher education community around it. And then the plan would be then in a couple of years, we can, based on this experience, so the idea would be that we can start, that the universities can start delivering the label as soon as possible, and that with richer from this experience in a couple of years, we could come up with a proposal this time with a European degree. Yeah? So we need to allow ourselves to maybe refine the European criteria based on this experience and come up with a very concrete proposal for a European degree in a couple of years.
Okay. Peter, yeah, I heard also the quality assurance, which is a tricky subject, but if you have time, we'll get back to it. But first of all, Peter, would you like to say from your side, also a reaction to Vanessa, but from universities or from alliances point of view, what are the next steps?
Yeah, I think the next step is really looking what the council is going to do. And well, the support of universities is there. There have been several statements already made to member states and commission to now really continue. A step is better than no step. It doesn't have to be the final step as far as we are concerned, but removing some of the legal barriers, making sure that we can continue to experiment, that we have something to say in the European Degree Policy Lab is really going to be important. And I would say member states can follow what some member states have been doing, like Flanders, but also Spain has taken steps by just creating exceptions for those specific cases where there is a European ambition to work jointly on new degrees. I think we also need to reflect a little bit on the details of the criteria. I don't think this is the most important as of now. The jointness of degrees and programs is very important, and then some added value needs to be created quality-wise for the initiatives that are to be taken, and yeah, there will be fine-tuning possible, I think, in the years to come.
Okay. Let's let's go to the questions. I'm mindful of time. There are lots of questions. Let's see if we can address some of them, and then we may be able to pick up some of the loose ends later. But let me see. The question of, okay, here's one. If the goal of the European degree is to reduce or eliminate legal barriers, why do the criteria also include content-related requirements, such as digital skills and interdisciplinarity?
If I may, I mean, this is a
Go
very
ahead.
good question. I think if we want to take a European initiative, there needs to be added value. If it's just about jointness of program, I think we would be very, very pleased to use all the legal work that is being done to realize the European degrees. But we don't need this European label or whatever European stamp for just doing something jointly with some partners. If it's only about removing barriers, of course, joint programs are sufficient. But I think it really is important to do more to include aspects that improve the student experience across Europe. So there needs to be some jointness. As far as I'm concerned, also some multilingualism is important, so that students in Europe learn to speak more than just one or two languages, and to if there is a European initiative to stress European values in this very complicated world where we don't know where it will go to, I think it's also very important.
And if I may complement what Peter rightly said right now, it's also because we need to prepare the students for the future jobs. And any future job will require digital skills. So we are not telling universities what to teach. They're free to adapt, what kind of digital skills they need, depending on the disciplines, depending on the programs. We are not telling them what to teach. We are just saying that, look, it's important. Have in mind that for what do you prepare your students, and in the context of the program, what kind of digital skills they will need in the future. The same interdisciplinarity. We are not saying that all joint degrees should be fully interdisciplinary, but you should include at least a module of transdisciplinarity that can take, again, many different formats. We are not imposing any format here, but it's very important that anybody in their future career, no matter what their work or what their job will be, they cannot work in silos. In any job, we need to work with other peoples, having different jobs, different disciplines, etc. It's about an interaction. And this is what triggers creativity. This is what triggers innovation. And this is what future jobs need. And this is what, we need also to think about a society that is human-centric. What is the human added value as compared to what artificial intelligence can do? So these are the types of skills that future jobs will require, no matter what jobs. So we need to prepare students for that.
And if I may add my own little thing on my hobby horse about the importance of humanities and social sciences within the interdisciplinarity area and the challenges that we are facing, that, I know that interdisciplinarity is something that universities want and that they sometimes have difficulty with, but it is generally the direction of travel, wouldn't you say, Peter?
Yeah, I would think so. If I come back to the two examples that we have implemented in Europa, both in European studies and in sustainability, humanities are up front. Of course, in sustainability, there is a strong link to science and engineering as well, but humanities and interdisciplinarity there, and being able to speak more than just one language in the disciplinary sense, not only in the linguistic sense, is crucial. So yeah, of course.
Yeah. We were talking about languages earlier, and there was indeed a question about this also. What does exposure to 2 or more EU languages, it's in quotation marks, in the proposed criteria mean? Does it mean that students have to study in at least 2 languages, which could be a high bar in some subject areas? Or does that mean that they should be able to study in more than one language if they want to? So how hard or how easy are the language requirements going to be?
Yeah, I would think this is too early to say. I think these type of criteria need some flexibility on how you implement this. But the important aspect is, as we know, with student exchange within Europe, is that students have a multicultural, intercultural experience while they are studying at different places. And then having the possibility, the opportunity to learn different languages, to learn the language of the place, the member state where they are residing for a semester or two is an added value and very important. To have the bar very high so that you already have to be almost a native speaker in different languages in order to take complicated courses. I don't think this is the idea of this criteria. And it may very much depend on which programs we are talking about.
I fully agree with Peter. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. There are a few questions also on joint degrees, also double degrees, multiple degrees. One attendee frames it as such, it seems no doubt among the invited speakers that there's a value in the European degree. But what about degrees of universities, inclusive joint or double degrees? What's the potential of devaluation of university degrees? Is there a risk there?
It's always difficult to exclude risks, and certainly when there's a new initiative, you may start wondering. I think we will have to see how it goes. Of course, we are not, at least as far as I know, talking to people within our alliance and beyond, we are not going to just duplicate with a different label or whatever, a medal or a reward or additional certificate. We are not going to just repeat what the universities have been doing already for a very long time. It's really about those programs that are not existing, where you can create added value, where you attract a certain group of students which are interested in, for instance, interdisciplinarity. And then this is not evaluating any other, it's just a different choice. So, sorry to come back again to the experience that we have, but if I now look to the group of almost 1,000 students who are currently in the 3 years that we have of the Bachelor of European Studies, which you can follow at different places with joint activities and so on. These are students that also could have chosen to take a law program or a social sciences, political sciences program or a business program, but they really opted for this multidisciplinary broad bachelor. And now they are choosing where they want to go to. So it's a different approach. And many students will not like that approach. They will go for a disciplinary degree first, and then maybe later on, even at master level or even beyond, may think of broadening up their scope and have a more inter or multidisciplinary education. It's just something different. And I think we have to stress that that is the important aspect of this new type of degrees that we want to issue.
I cannot agree more with Peter, absolutely. What we want with this European degree is not to continue business as usual, but to create what does not exist yet. So I mean, we are not putting into question the double or triple degrees that exist, but what we want to create is even more cooperation between even more universities. So I cannot imagine a quadruplate or cinque diploma. You know, it would be very difficult for universities and for the employers to understand. So one joint degree and a 1 degree for no matter how many universities have contributed is, in our view, the way to go, but without putting into question the fabulous joint or double programs that already exist, and they will continue existing.
Okay. Here's another question, linking it to the question is actually, how does the European degree for higher education compare to the newly proposed European VET degree, the VET? And then a little bit related to that, but I mean different, how is it related to Erasmus Mundus? And also this question then focuses on the funds. Will Erasmus Mundus disappear as a funding line in order to make place for the European joint degree?
Okay, so two different questions. So first, the VET degree. So the objective of the European higher education degree was to address the 50 challenges that the pilots have identified. And we have built the European degree in order to address these challenges, to build, what does not exist yet, but where we see an added value for the future jobs. So the diploma for VET may not look like the higher education degree because the challenges in VET may be different from higher education. So we will see. So the first step is to identify the challenges, identify what are the needs of the future jobs, and see how to best address them to lead to these future jobs. So this is a new, we have kind of a whiteboard, and it's up to us together to co-shape it, basically, as much as we have done it for the European higher education degree. And we have centers of vocational excellence that can provide a lot of insights and a lot of lessons learned to help co-shaping this VET diploma. Now, when it comes to Erasmus Mundus, look, this is we are not putting into question Erasmus Mundus. At the moment, we are focusing on piloting this European degree, first as a label, providing incentives, and then we will see with Erasmus Mundus. The discussion of Erasmus Mundus is a bit different. They have allowed to develop fantastic joint programs at master level, and this is undeniable. Now the question is how to sustain them, because they are very costly. So that is a different question. With the European degree, the European degree is not a funding instrument. The Erasmus Mundus is a funding instrument, but the European degree is not a funding instrument. It is a policy instrument. So any Erasmus Mundus joint program or any Maes doctoral program or any type of funded joint program could deliver a European degree if they wish so. So it's very important to make the difference between the funding and between a policy instrument.
Okay.
Yeah, if I may come in there, Katrien, I think the last aspect is very important. So we, I think, with the European degree should not be in competition with extremely valuable and very successful programs like the Marie Curie Actions doctoral programs and the Erasmus Mundus master programs. These have been fantastic instruments that really changed Europe for the better. So I think these are there to stay, I hope. Of course, the European degree may, and certainly a bachelor and PhD level may require additional funding as well, but that would be another instrument to be designed. I think it is important to maintain what is good, and if we want additional funding schemes, that additional funding is found.
Yep, that certainly would be LERU's view as well, as you know. Let me ask another question that has come in. The question is, would you consider using the internal market Article 114 of the treaty to take the EU measures in the field of education if the member states stay behind or are reluctant to take measures? So the present national obstacles certainly can be considered as obstacles to the EU internal education market. But what about Article 114 of the treaty? Vanessa, I think that's one for you.
It's a very relevant question. You know that we have presented on the 5th of March a very important package. It's the Union of Skills package, bringing together education and employment to make it, to bring them both at the highest political level. So what we have proposed is a completely new governance for education skills, where we are going to build high-level skills observatory to bring all the data of education, employment, where are the skills gap, what are the forecasts, so that every year we can have an evaluation on where the gaps are or where the future gaps may come and what is the situation and what best action we need to take to address the needs of our society now and in the future. We are going to set up a high-level skills board, bringing together the world of the employers together with the world of education to address what the observatory will show us. And then the objective is to bring it at the highest level of the council with a recommendation on human capital addressed to the head of state and head of governments to take bold decisions, because Europe needs to be bold if we want to be competitive in line with the competitiveness compass. And then this will enter into the European semester cycle that triggers reforms at national level, supported by funding. Now, this will be the place if you want to discuss what are the best instruments at European level to put forward to address these issues, to get the strong human capital that Europe needs.
Okay, let's hope that also in the successive presidencies of the council that are coming along, this can be moved forward, because that will not be obvious. Every country does have a little bit of a say in which agenda items get moved forward under its presidency. Do you see issues there, Vanessa?
Of course, this will trigger discussions. Actually, we have understood that the Polish presidency may want to put forward discussions on this new governance on Union of Skills in the council meeting with ministers responsible for education that will place 12th of May. We have understood that the Danish presidency would be interested in continuing the discussions that are very important for education, skills and employment in the future. And also very important to involve the ministers in charge of finances as well.
Of course. There comes the budget, yes.
Yeah, that's the key, yeah.
Okay, good. We keep our fingers crossed. One more question. We have time for one or two more, I think. I've lost it now. It was about, we talked about the attractiveness, not only to EU, but also to non-EU students. We've talked about that, but the second part of the question was, so there are migration and visa issues, which are actually more urgent than focusing on the degree itself. Currently, these issues are one of the biggest obstacles for our departments when starting new joint programs. I'll just say that this comes from Sweden.
No, absolutely, and the problem is not only in Sweden, but it's very generalized across the EU, and that is why this is part of the fourth pillar of the Union of Skills. The fourth pillar of the Union of Skills is about to attract talent from everywhere in the world. In Europe, we want to be Europe a magnet for talent, and for that we need to address the issue of the visas. Absolutely, actually, the Commission is preparing a new strategy and about the visas. So we are working on it together with the member states, of course, and we will come up with a proposal by the end of this year.
Okay. Peter, do you see that as an important obstacle for the KU Leuven, for instance?
Yeah, there's an obstacle, but not, I think, a more important obstacle for the joint degrees than for the degrees that we are issuing. It brings, of course, an additional complication. Students have to go from one member state to the other. We do hope that we can use European regulations to accommodate students in different member states. It, of course, is an issue and a very important issue if we want to include a full European higher education area. I want to go beyond EU 27, which is also very important for Europe to allow that associated countries and partner countries are included in some of the degree programs. And then, of course, it becomes more of an issue, but that's, of course, beyond what Europe can really control.
Okay. Vanessa, no, you're fine with this? Yeah, nothing.
Totally fine. Totally
okay.
fine.
All right. Here comes, is it for the happy few or not? We've talked a little bit about this, but let's explore this a little bit more because this is an actual question. The question also mentioned Erasmus Mundus Revisited, question mark. The legal criterion of one joint degree awarder makes critical mass unreachable. So, we're going back to the, is this going to be for enough people? Would it not be better to Europeanize local degrees even further?
It's a very important question, I think, and we really have to be mindful of possible limitations that we put into programs. So I think size and scalability is important for every new initiative that we jointly take as Europe in the higher education endeavors. The happy few, maybe, but if I again come back to some of the examples, we do have these joint degrees with hundreds of students in every cohort. That's not a small program. But of course, compared to the total amount of students educated in Europe in all universities, it's a minority. But that's fine. I mean, this is the same with many of the initiatives that we take at universities. We have a lot of small programs, which are crucial. We have a lot of specialized PhD programs, which is also for not so many students. So that in itself should not stop us from taking steps forward. The good thing, though, would be that if we create a number of these European degree programs, and in doing so, we manage to solve many of the hurdles to collaborate between member state institutions, that this becomes possible for much more programs, even if they don't really want to go for one of these European degrees, but just if they want to collaborate more intensively. So solving the problems for the European degree is just creating a much more open and easier European higher education area. And that will open it up to many, many more students, maybe not in the fully fledged degrees, but in all mobility experiences that we currently are working on.
Absolutely, I cannot agree more.
When you dream about the future, Vanessa, do you have an idea of numbers of students, percentage of students in Europe at European universities that you would like to see to get a joint degree? I know there's a target on, for instance, 50% mobility, but what about actually having a European degree?
We have not set any target at this stage. Indeed, we have the 50% mobility target within the European Universities Alliances and the 25% at European level across all the different programs. So indeed, the objective is to offer as many opportunities as possible for students to be able to benefit from what Europe has to offer for them. So this is really our dream, is to have a competitive Europe with competitive companies able to find the talent that they need to lead the world and to lead the future society, and to have still a human-centric society in a couple of years' time.
Peter? What would you like to see? Can you, for your own institution, can you talk about, do you have targets in terms of, I guess it's a bit early to talk about the European degree, but joint degrees or people going through degrees like you're doing within the Una Europa and so on?
Yeah. Yeah, of course, targets is always complicated because it all needs to add to the individual educational pathway of a student. So what we are convinced of is that having an international component is so much quality enhancing for a higher education student that essentially everybody should have such an experience. And then, of course, there are many ways. I don't think that really joining such an international degree in whatever kind is there for everybody, but we do see that more and more students are interested in going from one place to the other, maybe take an additional degree somewhere else. And if we have more and more interesting interdisciplinary, inter-university offerings available, I'm sure we will grow into very large numbers. And so yeah, it's I think the future. We have to be more flexible in student journeys, as we have to be more flexible in research careers, for instance. So this will be international within Europe and hopefully possibly beyond, but we will have to start with offering and creating the best opportunities within Europe, I think.
Yes, our dream is that Europe would be the place to be in the years to come.
Okay. I was going to ask you, look further ahead, 5 years or 10 years down
Yes.
the line, as a sort of way of concluding our discussion today. Where would you like to be?
In Europe. We need to be proud of our values. We need to be proud of our European identity, of our openness, of our inclusion, of cherishing our diversity, for example.
Yeah, and I really would like to be in a world where these values, these European values, and what we are trying to convey to our students with our approaches, with the way we see science interacting with society and being developed to the benefit of society, I would like to see this much more globally. And I think we have to work hard to make sure that what we stand for is again going to be seen as global values, as examples for where this world should evolve towards, seeing what is happening around us. I think we have to stand strong, hold the ground in Europe, make sure that we do whatever we can to, within our or in our old continent, continue to develop what we are good at, and that is creating a better society for as many people as possible, if possible for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way to conclude this discussion. There is really a unique value proposition for the European degree. We also understand that it's a long way ahead of us. This is not going to come about fast or easily, but it is a direction of travel, and on the basis of the values that we have, also protecting institutional autonomy, protecting academic freedom. That was another question that we didn't have time to address. We are definitely on a certain direction of travel, and let's hope that it becomes a winning proposition for Europe, as you have said. So I think this will now be the end of this episode of LERU Talks. Sorry we didn't get to all your questions. We tried to answer as many as possible. But I've certainly learned new things about the European degree, and I hope our viewers have done so too. I just want to thank our fantastic guests, Vanessa and Peter, for sharing your views and engaging in a lively discussion and an honest, frank discussion with each other and with the audience. And thank you everybody for watching. This episode, as the other episodes of LERU Talks, will appear on our LERU YouTube channel, where you can watch them again, and you can leave comments there as well. If there's something that you heard today and wasn't addressed, you want to give us some comments, please do. And then finally, also thanks to my colleagues here, Bart and Esther and Yasmin, and the people behind the scenes here that make this all possible. So with that, I'd like to end. Thank you again. Have a nice day, and stay tuned for a next LERU Talks. Bye.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you, Peter. It was a pleasure, as always.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to
See you
have you.
next time. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.